Game Season 3 released recently, and it has honestly been really irritating me. I finished it just today, so I want to go ahead and talk about it today. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say Squid Game as a overall is insanely good, and I think the premise of it being set in America is insanely stupid. It just is, in general. And I love Squid Game. I actually am like really deep into just Korean like K dramas and stuff like that, just in general. But the last season of Squid Game is so irritating because the beginning plays out kind of like how you think it would, right? Where he's basically mad. The main character, he's mad because his plan didn't work out, and that he finds the guy that's kind of the culprit but isn't 100% at fault, and he basically gets got essentially, and that makes sense. And you're like, okay, well that's a good plot line. And after this is where the plot line gets like insanely bad, right? So they introduce the one chick. I'm terrible with names, just bear with me. But they introduce the one chick that is pregnant, right? The chick that is pregnant, genuinely, the only way I figured it out was because it physically told me. She didn't look pregnant. She, I would have never guessed it. Honestly, I would have just guessed like that was her shirt, like 100%. And then in the like, this is spoilers by the way. And basically, what's going on in the new episodes is she ends up having the baby, right? And she, like I said, she doesn't even look close to being pregnant, but she ends up having the baby in the middle of this game, and she has the baby in like 5 minutes, and there's no side effects at all, essentially, outside of like her leg hurts a little bit, basically. But like that's not 100% a side effect of the baby either. That's a side effect of other things that were happening beforehand. So what irritates me about this is it feels like the entire baby arc was insanely forced upon the consumer, right? It feels like, oh, well, we have three options going into this game, essentially. Either A, the main character gets his get back and he shuts down the game, right? That's option one, which everybody would have been hyped for. Option B is he wins it again, but he realizes he failed that time, and then he kind of runs it back a third time, or attempts to run it back a third time, right? And maybe go to America or whatever it is. Or you had option C where he lets someone else win. And like I said, spoilers ahead. Going into basically the final games, he lets the baby win because basically the mother is gone and the father is a complete psycho. And it's just one of those things where it's a big plot hole that it doesn't matter too much, but it just makes it where I almost don't want to watch the American version like at all, because I can already tell there's just going to be so many dumb plot holes just for no reason. And I just hate that. I really do. And this goes for like anything. I watch a lot of like movies or whatever. And when there's a big plot hole, it ruins the movie for me if it's like unlogical, right? Like we'll take like the Flash TV show. I think that's the best example. The Flash TV show, first couple seasons, he is the Flash. He trains like the Flash, he acts like the Flash, he does things that the Flash would do. And then you go into later series, and it's like he forgets that he's the Flash, and till he basically is losing. He'll be like on his last limb, about to lose, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's right, I'm the Flash. I can just like not be caught by this guy." Wow, shocker! And it kind of feels that way in season 3 of Squid Game, where just randomly here is this baby that, and it kind of rocks the entire plot essentially. And it's one of those things where I'm not hyped about it, right? I'm not hyped about the baby winning. I don't care that it won, just simply. And there was like no emotion in the last episode, you know? It's like it sucks that the main character got eliminated, but at the end of the day, there was no emotion behind his elimination outside of like him standing there looking at the baby, basically. And that's kind of what makes zero sense to me. You know, in the first season, when him and his friend are at the very finale of Squid Game, it's a very emotional thing. They're good friends, but neither of them, want to get eliminated, but they also don't want to eliminate each other really. Like they're fighting for their lives, but you can see kind of the moral struggle of having to do something like that. But as it goes on, it's like the main character forgets that he used to have a wife, forgets that he has a mom, forgets that he has a daughter, basically just forgets about every single little thing. And then the series, like, basically, it wraps up after a while and it comes to an end. And at the end, the baby gets dropped off with the cop brother, which, in my opinion, just makes absolutely no sense. I think it would honestly be better instead of with him if the main, like, I guess you could say villain, right, actually took in the baby and maybe like changed his ways. I think that'd be a pretty good plot point because just like dropping with a brother that leaves it in an area where now that baby potentially could join the games later. It's like, why have this plot here? We know the one guy took her, so a better plot would have been like him growing up in like a good household, like raising the baby or something like that. I think that's just better plot. And then the other plot is he basically takes the main character's money of whatever's left of it, and he gives it to the main character's daughter. And from my understanding, and from what the last scene basically says, is the main character just completely forgot about his daughter. After the end of the last games, and he started going on his tirade of trying to like find how to get back into him, he apparently just vanished from his daughter's life completely. The one that he originally went into the games so that way he could like stop being a deadbeat dad. Yeah, that one. Yeah, that's just kind of why I don't like season three, because in season two, you understand why he's going back into the games. You like it's a hard decision, but after like the mental trauma and stuff like that, you can kind of understand like, okay, he's gonna get his get back, and then he's gonna go live a happy life. And I think that's what irritates me so much is not the fact that I'm like wrong about like what happens in the plot. It's just that the plot feels forced upon us, right? You have a baby born in less than 10 minutes, does basically absolutely nothing to the mother, and then like all of a sudden the main character is willing to sacrifice himself over the baby even though he still like has his daughter to look after. Like I just I don't get it, man. Like I physically can't see why in the final scenes of Squid Game why he would sacrifice himself for the child if he also knows that his daughter's still out there. It's like, why this child specifically? It's just a very weird plot hole, I guess you could say. And there's so many other things that could have really happened. He literally could have hit the buzzer like 10 minutes earlier and, just eliminated the dad. And like that could have been the end of the game. But no, 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 no. We don't want to do that. But yeah, that's just kind of my tirade about Squid Game Season 3 and some of the things that kind of irk me. Just the fine plot holes and stuff like that, because Season 2 felt so hype, right? You understood basically every single action and why it was being made. Where I would say about 2 to 3 episodes into season 3, you have no clue why any of it's happening anymore. Outside of like forcement, like obviously they're in the games because they're being forced to. But I'm talking about like decisions that they are making in said games. So yeah, that's what I want to talk about today. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Besides that, have a wonderful night. Peace.